Welcome to me building $1 billion business in public. We are just shy of $10 million, meaning we've got only 990 million to go. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So as always, we're going to start with a simple YouTube Q&A where we'll discuss the comments that you guys left on the YouTube videos and I'll answer any questions you guys had in those comments. Then we'll get into the main topic of today's video, which is why Build It and They'll Come still fails in 2025. And last but not least, we'll talk a little bit about strategy and what we're going to be doing with the brand. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the comments you guys left. We actually have a decent amount this time. Okay, let me start from the very bottom. DRZ, yes, I just meant that I often caught myself in overthinking what to say, because someone else already started talking. To worse for small talk when I often find myself not knowing what to answer. Maybe it's just the fact that I was chatting with low quality individuals that I couldn't relate to. If you could expand on the topic of communication social skills, that would be great. Do you have some advice on how to be good at mentioned bullshit pain tolerance? Okay. There's an interesting point that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. Just a quick short, because we're going to get to the rest of the ones, so I don't want this video to be too long. But maybe it's just the fact that I was chatting with low quality individuals that I couldn't relate to. This is a very important nuance here. And I recommend not thinking this way. You should be able to relate to pretty much anybody. Or at least if you actually don't, you should still be able to show them that you do, in a sense of they shouldn't feel ostracized from you. They shouldn't feel like you're a complete stranger. Of course, I'm not talking about in terms of like just regular relationships. I'm talking about in terms of a business aspect. If you ended up meeting somebody like that who was completely different from you, you should still be able to have something to talk about. Let me explain this for like your case specifically with the small talk stuff. So the way communication generally works, right, is the exchange of words, right? You exchange words and these words will lead to emotions. Generally speaking, a good conversation, right, is one where somebody feels a vast array of emotions on the spectrum, right? You can be, let's say, happy, excited, nostalgic, right? And this would be a good conversation, a good combo. Now, a bad combo, right, would be one where they feel sad, angry, humiliated, right? That would be a bad conversation. So the words don't nearly matter as much as the emotions do, because you can say kind words in a negative manner or in a sarcastic manner, and they can get a sad emotion out of it, right? So the goal, whether you're doing business or whether you're, courting somebody, your goal is to have the conversation end on a good note, such that you want to take them through a journey of these emotions, primarily the positive emotions. Now, there can be some negative emotions in there. For example, maybe a conversation about the family member passing away comes up, right? And they'll feel sad or something like that. I'm not saying you need to avoid all negative context, but you want to have a disproportionate amount of positive emotions as opposed to negative emotions. The more positive emotions you can make them feel by the end of the convo, the better the conversation is going to go, the better your relationship is going to be, especially if it's a business relationship. And of course, positive emotions kind of have a scale to them. If, let's say, you were to compare like excited versus happy, right? Excited would be like 10x, whereas happy, let's say, would be like 1x. So if you can get them to be excited, that's worth a lot more than just being happy or enjoying themselves. So how do we actually get to this point? What words do we use? How do we do it to get them to feel these emotions? You mentioned specifically small talk. Whenever there's small talk happening and you don't know what to talk about, the baseline, it's always to refer to this. What can I say that can make them have these emotions? Oftentimes, there is always something you can learn about a person. Their childhood, where they grew up, how their childhood maybe shaped their beliefs. You can go into topics such as deep as this if you really want, if you're making small talk, but in general, even just finding out about their hobbies, what they like, look at their clothing, look at their jewelry, right? Any type of even small talk, lead them towards the emotional spectrum, right? Get them to either feel nostalgic, excited, happy, right? any type of a positive array of emotions, you'll be doing your job. Similarly, a silence can also play a critical role in these things. But any conversation or any communication that you're doing, understand that your goal by the end of the conversation is for you and the person on the other end to leave with positive emotions. Okay? Now, why is it when you don't enjoy a conversation with someone? It's most likely because you had a lot more negative emotions in there, right? Whenever you talk with pessimistic people, for example, you end up leaving the conversation feeling like shit because you just feel like there's like a weight on your shoulders, right? It's because you're feeling sad, maybe a little bit less hopeful, a little bit more pessimistic, right? So people can directly give you their energy. And if it's a positive person, their conversation is good and they're giving you positive energy, you're going to lead the conversation in a positive manner. Same exact thing with even a business convo. It's extremely important that whenever you're talking business, you get them in a good mood, especially if it's going to be a sales call. If they're in a bad mood, forget about selling no matter how good your product is. It doesn't matter if you have the cure to cancer. If they're in a bad mood and they don't like you, they will not purchase from you just to even spite you in some cases, okay? So any conversation, remember, the words aren't nearly as important as you think they are. It's how you say these words. So how you say them. First, focus on how you say these words and focus on getting people to have an emotional sort of connection with you. Make sure that after every single conversation, they leave with at least one of those emotions. Whenever you're conscious about this, you're thinking about this, it's actually very easy in real-time conversation to get people to feel happy emotions. You can talk about your childhood, anything of that sort, right? And then once you master this, then you can focus on your vocabulary. Then you can focus on learning new words. Then you can focus on actual conversational skills. But for now, the base, understand this little connection here. And that's really all the advice I have for you, DRZ. If you can master that, you'll be pretty good. I also noticed you asked advice on how to be good at mention bullshit, pain tolerance. And I think VSP, you asked the same thing. Preventing emotion from, and how to morally think. Okay, so I guess I'll answer the bullshit, pain tolerance, and also this at the same time, the preventing emotion from constraining your decision-making process. The bullshit pain tolerance is all really about how durable you are, right? If we have a piece of paper, right, and then a piece of wood, and then let's say brick, right? So it's kind of like the house story where the piggies made their house and then the wolf came and blew it down, right? So if you have something out of paper, it's not going to be nearly as durable. If you have something out of wood, it's going to be more durable than paper, but less durable than a concrete wall, right? So you need to kind of think of yourself as a concrete or a diamond even, right? Or an iron wall or something like that. That's how you deal with the bullshit. The way it works is there's 8 billion people on the planet. And there are a certain amount of bullshit that's going to come in everybody's way. Now, it's going to hit some people, right? And it's going to bounce off like nothing happened, right? Imagine you throw it at a brick wall. It's just going to hit it and then bounce off. For other people, it's going to go straight through them, right? It's going to rip through the paper. And that person's essentially going to not eliminated, but more so they're going to give up, right? So your goal is to understand that there are many, many individuals in this world, and every single one of us has some bullshit we're dealing with. Some more so than others, some, on a higher scale than others, some are feeling more pressure than others, but not all of us are built the same. Some are paper, some are wood, and some are stone, okay? So when a stone person has some type of bullshit their way and then they just scoff at it, that same bullshit can really affect somebody with like a kind of paper durability, right? So understand that whenever you say, oh, I don't understand how people can't get through this, or, this is so easy, understand that for some people it's different. They have paper durability, right? You have stone durability. Your goal is to go from paper to wood to stone durability. So this is a skill that you can learn. I guess the best way that you can go about it, for me to explain it, is understand that bullshit is a part of life, okay? You're gonna get met with bullshit and pain. The best way that you can tolerate it is to understand that on the other side, right, if we have this wall, if we have this wall, on the other side it's like all the grass is green, blah, 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 and then on this side it's like fire and, it's burning, it's hell. Imagine this is your trial, okay? Trial by fire, so to say. That you have to go past this fire, scale the wall to get to the good side, okay? Now, The reason why there's a wall is because you don't often know what's on this side. You assume that there's grass on this side. But sometimes the way bullshit works is you'll go through all this shit, you'll go over the wall, and you'll realize there's just another set of fires here, or nails, okay? So it's not always picture perfect. But what needs to keep you going is that in life, there's this thing called disproportionate returns, okay? It's leverage. So understand that no matter how many fires you have to scale through, how many walls you have to climb, even if all of these are, let's say, nails or whatever the case, you only need one, right? One jackpot for you to win. And that's what keeps me going through all the pain and all the bullshit, because I know as long as I go through them, like each one I scale, there's less and less competition because one person ends up getting eliminated. On this one, another person will get eliminated. I go through it enough times, I'll be one of the last few people standing, and I know for a fact if I just go through them, one of the walls that I scale, I'm gonna hit the jackpot. And this has happened to me in life many, many times. Be it in relationships, be it with money, be it with business, be it with health, wellness, anything pretty much, right? Given enough times, of course, and I have to iterate and I have to learn from each iteration that I go, I can't just keep doing the same thing, right? More pain I go through, more everything I do, I know there's a jackpot at the very end. One of the biggest examples of this is when I first started the company. I did not have revenue for basically a few months, and I was literally down to $258 in my bank account. I could have given up then, but I didn't. I still decided to go through it, scale the mountain, scale the wall, whatever you want this to be, and then on the other end, I had a jackpot. That's how it works. That's how the bullshit pain tolerance works. Let's move on to the next questions. Using emotion to bring in more leads and close more clients. So that's how you use emotion to kind of have your decision-making process, right? Another way you can do emotion is, because emotions are either positive or negative, but they can both give a positive outcome. So this is one of the coolest things about emotion. A positive emotion can lead to a negative outcome, and a negative emotion can lead to a positive outcome. But a negative emotion can also lead to a negative outcome, and a positive emotion can lead to a positive outcome. Your goal is to have such a format where both your positive emotions and your negative emotions are used as fuel for a positive outcome. What do I mean? Anger, humility, not humility. Let me use, I think, a better one to use would be shame. Because shame is actually one of the strongest negative emotions you can feel. Anger, shame. And then let's do for positive, let's do excitement. Right? Let's do happiness. We'll just put happy. Excitement can lead you to a negative outcome or a positive outcome. Your goal is to identify what emotions you're currently feeling and understand how you're going to use them for a positive outcome. Anger is one of the strongest ones. You use anger to change your ways. You use shame to change your ways, but you can also use anger to go down a different path. You can use shame to go down a different path. What I usually like to do is I like to pair things. If I'm feeling angry, I stop and think, why am I feeling angry? What is causing this anger in me? Is it illogical, or is it rational, or is it irrational? Whether it's irrational or rational, I take a look at the future and I think, okay, once I'm over this anger because of what it is that is causing me, am I going to be excited? Am I going to be happy? Am I going to be ecstatic? What's the positive emotion that will be linked with this anger? And I'll get those two emotions and I'll channel it towards a positive outcome. I'll use the anger as fuel/motivation to do the hard shit that needs to be done because I know I'm looking forward towards that excitement. Right? And I'm excited to actually be doing it. I'm excited to go through that pain. I'm excited to feel that pain. If I'm feeling shameful about something, but I know once I fix it, I'll actually be very happy about myself, I pair the two together, okay? Same exact way. That's how generally you want to go about with emotions. Whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, find the positive emotion to pair it with, and then link it to a positive outcome. Some people don't need to link. Some people can just use anger to get a positive outcome, but most individuals end up driving themselves down, the wrong path. And then, so that's it. To bring in more leads and close more clients, same exact thing, VSP. Your emotions can trigger other emotions in people. If you're angry, you can trigger negative emotions in other folks. If you're positive, you can trigger positive emotions in other folks. So especially when it comes to sales calls, you want to mirror them. If they're angry about something, if they're shameful about their situation, you want to dig it into that pain point deeper and deeper. If they're excited to get started, if they're happy about it, you want to, weigh in on the positive side of things. So emotions should mirror your prospects in terms of getting clients. And then, Kevin, if any of these worked, why would you share your secret? Because he hopes to make more money while sharing free services. Anything wrong with that? Yeah, so basically, Kevin, very good question. And you are right to be skeptical, and as you should be. So thank you for the comment. The reason why I'm doing this is, as John said, to make more money, to share my experiences, to gather a following, gather an audience, but also because this is, I think, the one thing that I'm actually passionate about. Before I was just passionate about money, anything that I could really do to make money. Software engineering was just a means to an end for me. I wasn't necessarily passionate about coding or anything. And this is the one thing that I'm actually passionate about, is helping people start a business, especially software engineers who are, let's say, very technically adept, but they lack the marketing skills. There's no greater feeling than watching somebody to go, from like a 6-figure income to completely changing their life. Like Marco, if you guys know, within a matter of a few months. And to me, that's one of the greatest feelings in the world, that I know, okay, I'm able to do this for other individuals, right? And of course, it's to make more money too, because I help them start a business, and then I invest in the business, I take equity of that business. So it's a win-win for all individuals involved. But yeah, if you watch the earlier series, you'll understand a little bit more about that. But thank you for the comment. And with that, we can move on to the main topic of the video, which is why Build It and They'll Come still fails in 2025. So from the last video that I uploaded, a lot of you actually asked, well, why not just focus on building out an MVP first, and then, marketing it to individuals online, and it will spread like wildfire. Like if I have a really good product and I, upload it to like Twitter or whatever, like it will spread a lot, because good product, good anything will spread. This is not necessarily true. So for us to understand why this is not true, we first have to come to terms with two things, right? And that is attention and it has to be ICP, or I should rather say a fit. So attention we can have in terms of good and bad. Now, you might have probably already heard there's no such thing as bad attention, because any attention is good attention, right? More virality, more eyes, the better there is. For ICP, it really comes down to, once again, two things. Now, many people don't know about this, but the way ideal customers work is they can be a perfect fit for now, right? But in a few months' time or in a few years' time, they might be a completely different demographic. Same exact thing with this. They might not be a perfect fit now, but later they might be a very good perfect fit. Let me give a proper example of this. Back in the day, I used to be a gamer. I used to game a lot, right? I was addicted to League of Legends and all those other games. Counter-Strike, Medal of Honor, Lord of the Rings. I was a gamer, pretty hardcore gamer. Back in the day, anything about game conventions, any ads about gaming, even like League of Legends RP points back in the day, right? Any type of advertisement for a game would have caught my attention. For them, I was the ICP. Now, it's the last thing on my mind. I am very against gaming now, right? So I am definitely not their ICP anymore. But I am still the same individual. I am still myself. It's not like somebody else replaced me, right? It's still the same me, except as I got older, I realized that I was wasting my time on video games. And as a result, I completely fell out of market for this. So it's very much possible that in a person's lifespan, right, from beginning to end, if this is their entire lifespan, they just might be the ICP for your specific business, whatever you're offering, only in this portion of it. Or another individual, right, take another person, they might be your ICP in this portion of it, okay? There's no such thing as somebody whose ICP is going to be continually like this, okay? It's timed. Many people don't understand that. So this is why the Build It and They'll Come doesn't work in 2025, and in my opinion, it never will work. Because no matter how good your product is, okay, if a person who's, let's say, in this phase currently, they have yet to come here to become your ICP, sees your product accidentally or whatever, right? Or you're just hoping they're going to find it, they're never going to find it. Why? Because they are not part of your ICP. They are not interested in it. Their YouTube algorithm isn't going to show it to them. It's not going to be on their Twitter feed. None of that. Okay? Like organically, it's going to be very difficult for you to do so, to build it and it'll come thing. What you want, the reason why marketing even exists in the first place, while people run ads, why people post videos, is because it's evergreen. I can post a video, right? Let's say a video that I posted a year ago, and somebody at that exact time might not have found it useful, but fast forward a year and they're exactly in the situation where they are now my ICP. Okay? That's why videos are so crazy, because they're evergreen. I can, if I know somebody's here currently, and that's, let's say, it's going to take them 2 years to get to this point, and if I upload a video now, I'll not only get the people who are currently here, but also 2 years later, this person will most likely find me as well. Okay? So the build it and they'll come fundamentally doesn't work, because you are assuming that your ICP works like this. Okay? And if this was the case, and people were always going to be interested in what it is you're building, and it's actually a really good product, then yes, it would spread like wildfire, because everybody would talk to one another, everybody would refer to one another. But that's not how it works. There's only a window of time, a small opportunity you have with each individual that's currently living on this planet to get them to purchase from you. Okay? Now, since there are 8 billion people, that's why it's so easy to make money, is because you have 8 billion people. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of them, millions of them, that coincide with this specific timeline. But the reason that build it and they'll come isn't necessarily sustainable for the long term is because as you run out of individuals and you need to nurture more and more and more, the build it and they'll come doesn't work. You need to market it, right? And another thing, the more fundamental view is, if let's say I have a diamond. No, this is not a diamond. I'm not even going to try to draw a diamond. Just think of this as a diamond. If I have a diamond hidden away somewhere, okay? And then I have like a piece of silver. And there's an individual. And both of these would, let's say, solve this individual's problem. Let's say he's looking for a ring. Now, there's assumptions we have to make. The assumption is, first, he's aware of a silver and he's aware of a diamond ring. Second assumption is he knows where to get a silver ring and he knows where to get a diamond ring. Okay? Look how many things we have to assume about this individual. If I'm the person selling the diamond ring, right? There are people who, first and foremost, don't even know about a diamond ring. There's people who do know about a diamond ring but don't know where to get it. And there's people who might have misconceptions about a diamond ring and it being very expensive, right? Same thing with the individual going to the silver route. He can have the same exact misconceptions. However, this individual, right, whenever he's going to make a purchasing decision, he's going to go with the one that he sees, that he actually has information on, that he's familiar with. So if he's seen more content, more advertising, more communication from this, he's going to go with that because that's what he knows. If he hasn't seen anything from this, if he doesn't even see it with his eyes, right? How is this ever going to sell? So it doesn't matter if this is the best thing in existence. If nobody sees it, there's no eyeballs on it, it's not going to spread like wildfire on its own. People have this misconception that if it's really, really good, people are going to talk about it. That's if you pair it with marketing, right? So if you have proper marketing and a good product, right? Most people think, oh, it's 2x. No. This actually, in reality, it's not an addition, it's a multiplication. And honestly, I would even say, instead of multiplication, it's more so to the power of, right? So it's exponential. That's how it works. But if you have only one of these guys, right, it doesn't really necessarily work. There's no equation that you can set up, okay? So that's why it's extremely important that you, fundamentally, no matter how good your product is, you focus on marketing first and foremost. In fact, I would even say your product doesn't need to be good from the get-go. It just needs to solve the problem at a decent enough manner, for you to move on to the next phase. Only after you get customer feedback can you then improve the product to make it the best possible in the world. But there are so many products that exist right now that simply just suck, right? It just sucks, but they make millions and billions of dollars, right? And there's so many that you can take a look at this. Just go on Amazon and you'll see some of the most top contender items if you want like physical products. If you want service-based, just take a look at some gyms. Like in the United States, like you have 24-hour fitness, Planet Fitness. One of the worst gyms probably in certain locations, and yet they still make so much money, right? Because once again, you just need to solve the problem in a good enough manner. You don't need to be something crazy as long as people are aware of it. Because most individuals aren't even aware of the better solutions. That's another thing too. Even if I have the best thing on a planet over here, if this individual only sees this, he's just going to go with that because this right now solves his current problem, immediate need. He's going to go with that. So that's why the build it and they'll come will always fail in 2025 and beyond. And that's why you need to understand this ICP thing and also why you need to pay attention to getting attention. Okay? Marketing is the most fundamental point of a business. I would say it's the second most important step. First is identifying the proper pain point, the proper problem. With that, let's move on to strategizing. We're going to keep it a little short today. Let me refresh. See if we got anything new. Okay, perfect. So strategy-wise, we're doing very well actually. We passed 100 subscribers. We're at 105 subscribers. Views have died down slightly, but not bad. Our impressions click-through rate is still horrendous. So we're gonna need to work on the titles and the thumbnails a little bit more. But overall, we're still going strong. If you have any questions, just drop it down in the comments below. And then starting in about 2 days, we will be talking about specifically cold email campaign that is almost going to be wrapped up. And I'll talk about the results and essentially how I got that working and what that ended up getting me in opportunities. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.